Maybe you could. Whoa, there we go. Thank you. All right. Well, hello. Welcome, everyone. I'm feeling a little feedback happening up here, but that's okay. It'll come down in a second. Thank you so much for being here. I am looking forward to this because this is a panel that's been kind of organized divinely, and I'll explain that in a second. But I am Lisa Garr. I'm the host of the Aware Show. I have been broadcasting for 20 plus years about cutting edge health and really about the possibility of our human potential. And that's ultimately what we're talking about today. This is the title of this particular talk today is about optimum health. But what it really means is it's about the possible human and how our mind, our bodies, and our spirits connect in order to bring us to a place of wellness. And if you can't feel and see and imagine your body in an optimal state, then it's really difficult to achieve that. So what we're going to be talking about today from all of these wonderful perspectives that we have up here is how to bring alignment between the mind, the body, and the spirit to achieve optimal health, to be it, not achieve it, but to actually be it. All right? And because it's my favorite thing to do on radio is I always like to involve you. So this is an intimate, interactive group. I want your opinions. I want your voice. I want your questions. We're going to have a microphone walking around in the middle. If you have, hey, I have a question, bring it on. This is what I love to do. You're not just passively listening. You are here probably because you want to actively engage in this conversation. Am I right? Okay, thank you. So I want your voices. I want you to be heard here and ask your questions. So we ready to get started? Yes. All right, thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to start off with our beautiful panel here. Dr. Jeffrey Benton, who is joining us in the very end. He has a very colorful book called Emotional Trauma Release Technique. It's the ultimate systems for releasing life's traumas. And I'm going to start off by just asking each one of my panelists, tell me your quick story of how you got into your work. I'm going to take you back to your roots. So I want to get into the origin story of how you got to where you are, and then we'll talk about your work.
How far back do you want me to go?
You've got 2 minutes. You know those workshops where you practice the 2-minute story? Here you go.
I was always curious about the health and the body and the human spirit. I got into holistic medicine after I wrote a report in high school talking, and the topic was holistic health and science. And I am a licensed chiropractor and a certified traditional naturopath, as well as a clinical nutritionist. And as a result of a breakup with a soulmate and a broken heart, I sort of cried out to God, and I said, God, I love her and I want her back. And so I got a download saying, and that's what this is. The emotional trauma release technique is the culmination of that. And I started doing it on people, not even knowing that I had this gift, this vision. I mean, the very first person I worked on was date raped, and I didn't know. And then I touched her thigh, palpating, and then she went weak. I go, well, what happened there? And her whole demeanor shifted. She goes, well, that's where he grabbed me. And I go, excuse me? He said, I was date raped, and that's where he grabbed me. So I cleared her in one session, and she was able to trust men again and find a man, and she invited me to her wedding roughly a year later. And then from there, I've been working on people. I lectured on Friday, and I bring people up and I heal from stage. I mean, it just like healing can happen that fast because I take the trauma out. So I said, the vision is we are all energy beings, and we have all the chakras, we have all these energy centers, and what gets in the way is life throws curveballs at you. And sometimes they knock us down and we don't get up as straight as before. We take the trauma out, and then the life force energy flows through you better, and you are stronger, faster, and more vital.
Excellent. Thank you so much. See how it really helps when you hear somebody's story? You really get to know them better. And Sandra, Rose, Michael, you have been a wonderful influence on so many people here, and I'm so grateful that you're here joining us on this panel about optimal health, because this is what you talk about. Dr. Sandra has taught holistic health for over 4 decades and invented the first effective scalar healing light chamber. And I just want to get into a little bit of how you came about this work. Take us back.
The Wayback Machine.
Yes, the Wayback Machine in the light chamber.
Yeah, no, it really started when it started when my parents met in engineering physics, actually. But so
That's great.
conceived at Niagara Falls with Tesla's power plant. Oops.
That's a good.
It was a big oops, but my mother's mother told her if she douched on her wedding night, she wouldn't get pregnant. Can't make this shift up, okay? Two hyper geniuses, my mother a nuclear physicist, top secret nuclear physicist, my dad the aerospace, electrical, mechanical, structural engineer. Two hyper geniuses. What happens on a wedding night? And that's my fault.
You're like, I'm coming in.
On the Tesla ramp. But anyway, that was a rush of energy. So my mother was fissioning plutonium in the lab the entire time she was pregnant with me, working on the bomb. And instead she got me. She was, and so we had this mad Atlantean scientist stuck on mad. But I remember it all vividly. And my dad, so my mom worked on the bomb, my dad worked on stealth bombers, and I came in going, how do we heal the world? How do we heal all of this? And from the time I could talk, I was talking about the mad Atlantean scientists, and I was still pissed about them. So guess what I got as parents? So literally from the time I could talk, I was talking about the abuse of power, the mad Atlantean scientists, and everything, the destruction of Atlantis and what went on with that, and came in going, how do we heal the world? How do we heal the world? And so that's been my whole agenda, my whole life. I started with, so I grew up doing all of Tesla's experiments, transducers, receivers, antennas, all that, Tesla coils, all that stuff, levitating things as a kid, and healing all the animals on the farm, because I see the body as a circuitry. And I started in chiropractic, reflexology, nutrition, Ayurveda in 1971. The power that made the body heals the body. Straight chiropractic principle, the power that made the body heals the body. And I set about, in the early 70s, I studied Ayurveda, all that stuff, and studied the Vedas, but I studied Rife and trained in radionics and learned about photonics, all the biophotonics, what that means for the body, all these different modalities of healing besides really being a hands-on healer. Yeah. And so 1978 is when I built my first full, after all kinds of experiments, all kinds of research, all kinds of things from NASA. I had my own spa in 1978 and built my first scalar healing light chamber in 1978.
Wow.
So I got the Lifetime Achievement Award. I think I did the homework.
Good job. Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Nobody told me I was getting it, but so I wasn't there to receive it. Two of my youngest kids were there.
Yes.
Except it for me last night.
Yes.
But look how pretty. I thought I'd share that with everybody. So.
Thank you. And we'll find out more about that later and how it works with Optimal Health. Thank you. And Dr. Hyla Cass is here for a wonderful reason. She just has been a friend for a very, very long time. She has natural remedies for healing depression, anxiety, addiction, and they're all non-drug solutions. And I'm so grateful to see you. What's your origin story, girl?
Well, I started off being born in a family where my dad was a doctor, and he had his office at home. This was in Toronto, and in those days, that's what people did. They had their offices at home. So I would answer the door, let the patient, I was about 3 years old, 4 years old, I would let the patients in, and he would treat me like a colleague. It was very interesting. I mean, he would talk to me about his cases, and I just felt very included, and I figured I would be either a nurse or something like that when I grew up. I didn't think I'd be an actual doctor, but it turns out that feminism came along around then, and he took me to Women's College Hospital, and he said, see all these women? They're married, they have kids, and they're MDs. I mean, was that amazing?
Yes, good mentor.
Women needed mentors in those days.
Mhm.
It didn't just happen. So bless you, Dad. And he's with me.
Yes.
Really helps me with my work. Then I was very drawn to psychiatry because I want to know what makes people tick.
Mhm.
You know, just kind of fascinating. And I saw that the meds did not really work. They caused side effects. They were mostly placebo with side effects. So, you know, occasionally meds are okay. I don't happen to prescribe them unless I'm helping somebody taper. So I'm sort of known for helping people to taper off meds or not go off meds in the first place using natural means, natural supplements, herbs, vitamins, amino acids, also psychotherapy. Like I studied EMDR, voice dialogue, imagery, and a lot of energy medicine. So I'm not your usual psychiatrist and love my work. And thanks for being here for the panel.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely great. You've been practicing for a very long time, right? Like close to 30 years? More, close to 40. You have a very experienced panel. Great. And Joanne Randolph is next to Hyla, and she is a board-certified nurse practitioner, and she has a master's in nursing, and she is a writer and a Deborah King Center certified life force energy healing teacher. So tell me, how did you get into all of this amazing healing?
Sure. When my family immigrated from the Philippines to the United States, we lived in care home for the elderly, and I was 10 years old then, and having to help my mom survive as an immigrant family. I think that was when my first exposure to nursing and caregiving really came into my life. And after college, I decided I majored in sociology, and later on, as I was in an abusive relationship, and I was on a spiritual journey, and I received guidance to go back to school and be a nurse practitioner, and I applied and I got in, and so I've been a nurse practitioner since then. That was back in 2009, and when I turned 35, I had postpartum depression after the birth of my child, and then I had a silent miscarriage, and I went on another spiritual journey, and it was then that on my quest for healing from postpartum depression, I ran into energy healing, and I discovered that, we are a lot, there's so many more dimensions to healing than the physical, and my career as a nurse and as a nurse practitioner was focused on the physical, but in my own quest for my healing, I learned about energy healing and the many layers of healing that's equally as important as the physical.
Mm-hmm. I love this. I mean, it really helps us understand where people's journeys are and where we come from. And I'm sure that you have all your own healing journeys as well. So we all have to go through what we've got to go through in order to get to this realization of, oh, we have the ability to have an optimal body. And Lisa Thomas is an emotional DNA epigenetic healer who facilitates next level transformation of humanity through private and group sessions. And she's the founder of the Soul Awakening Method. Mm-hmm. How did your soul get awakened? Tell me a little.
I was born with spiritual gifts that I was told I was made to feel like I wasn't safe. So as a child, I could look at someone, like say we were at church, right, as a child, and I would say, "Mom, they're not healthy," and she would say, "Shh, don't let anybody hear you." Now, she did that to keep me safe. If I would go over to a friend's house, don't be telling them who their guardian angels are, Lisa. Just keep that to yourself. Again, she wanted to keep me safe. But as I got older, what happens when we ignore who we are because we're trying to be safe is it's called oppression. And oppression turns into depression. And I literally, from the time I was 7, I felt like I landed in the wrong family at the wrong time on planet Earth because I was so different than the rest of my family. And it's not that I didn't have a good relationship with them, I just wasn't anything like them. And they didn't want to know that I saw dead people. They didn't care. My mom, she can't stay awake with me all night. So I give my parents, they did the best they could. But I used to pray, starting from 7 on, that God, if you made me this way, why is it wrong? Right? And then as I got older, I also had postpartum depression. I was not educated in mental health. And my mom had died when I was younger. I was in my early 30s. And I didn't know what I didn't know. So I thought there was something wrong with me because I'd always been told there was something wrong. I'm too different. And so then my prayers turned to someone else can be a better mother than me. So God, if I get hit by a train, it'll be best. I wasn't suicidal. I just didn't have any life force in me. Okay? And so I felt somebody else could do a better job at mothering than me. And my husband's adorable, and I had 3 little towheads.
Wow.
All right? So this is what happens. I go to Cabo with my husband. I'm racing him because I am a bit of a daredevil, okay? And I tell him we're going to go up this hill, and I didn't look because I was going to win. So I take off, and what happens is it was a huge sand dune. And that ATV came back on top of me. And this is what I hear, are you staying or are you going? So it was that moment of choice, and not only did I have that at one moment, once the ATV landed on me and the excruciating pain, are you staying, Lisa, or are you going? And from that moment on, in the 6 weeks of healing, I said, if it had really been my time, I wouldn't have had a choice. So I made a decision that I was going to stop doing, like I was drinking a boatload of Diet Coke. That was because I needed energy, everybody. I very well knew it was bad for me. But I changed my life from that moment. I started saying yes to more, yes to myself. And one thing led to another, because I didn't see a vision that I'd be where I am. And I don't think I would have be where I am if I'd seen it, because I wouldn't have believed that in myself. But by saying yes, it brought me to where I am now, and I can help other people. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Wow. Great story. Great story. And now we have Dr. Michael Grossman and Barbara Grossman. And Michael specializes in longevity, and his wonderful wife also specializes in personal development and psychology, and together they've authored 5 transformative books, which is a wonderful thing to do together. So tell me a little bit about your origin story, if you can, Michael, and then I'll ask Barbara.
So when I think of my origin story, I remember when I was 17 in college and suffering from reading Camus and Sartre, the existentialist 1960s, early 1970s, and I was totally depressed, as you're supposed to be, because life is nothing, meaningless, worthless, supposed to experience nausea, and I felt so terrible. And then I'm walking up the hill, and I pray, if there is a God, please show me the way out of this. And then I opened my eyes, and there was a tree in front of me walking up to college, up the path in the Bronx, and the tree had metal growing out of its trunk. I said, this doesn't make any sense. How could metal grow out of a tree? And I kept walking around the tree, and then I had this eureka experience. This was a little baby tree that had the metal fence around it, and it just grew out, and it encompassed the metal inside of itself, a little piece of it still sticking out. And that was the message from God. Stop fighting everything and resisting, and let go, and you're going to grow beyond those limitations. So that was like a big God's message to me. So what I do with that message, I started meditating. I was a total nervous wreck trying to make medical school. Every exam I couldn't sleep, I couldn't do anything. I took the exam, it didn't matter what I scored. As soon as the exam was over, I was relieved. And I said, this is no way to live. So I said, I'm not going to resist this, I'm going to learn to meditate, and it changed my life. And then out of that meditation, you have this whole different experience of life where you feel God's presence, and everything changes for you. I was in medical school. I loved medical school insofar as I was not so into the practical things. I told the doctors in medical school, all my professors, I think that diabetes is caused from eating too much sugar. And their reaction was laughter. Everybody knew in 1971 that diabetes was a genetic problem, and that was it. And for me to think that it was from eating too much sugar was laughter. I was the first licensed acupuncturist, MD, probably in America, 1973. I loved that. I treated so many patients in the hospital, nobody knew what I was doing. Occasionally, one of the doctors asked me, what are you doing? And I was curing people from all kinds of things, otherwise they can do surgery on them. And it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that a lot. I learned all kinds of things in Ayurveda, and I did that throughout my medical career. And then the only problem I had after that was my wife.
Enter in Barbara.
I was so into my career. I loved my career and so on. But Barbara, why don't you share a little bit about us there?
Well, I was going to say that what brings me to what I do fundamentally is, I think Americans are lonely. And my own story, I was born and at 2 months old, my mother left my father. So I was raised by my mother and my grandmother. And then at 8 years old, my mother remarried. And so I at that point in time, I became the daughter of two parents. And I have to tell you, there's a big difference. I want American children to have two parents. There's so many dimensions of life that infuses with spirituality and centeredness and love and grace. The thing about being married is it's not easy. Michael and I have been married for over 50 years. And what happens in marriage is you connect because you have affinity, and you accentuate what you have in common, and things are sweet and smooth sailing for a little while. And then because we are individuals, that part of our personalities become present. And then we have conflict, lots of conflict. My office is busy. I've been working in for 40 plus years. I have no free time because there's couples who just don't know how to get along with each other, and they once fell in love with each other. And so my message has to do with there's a predictable path of development that includes this unpleasant, uncomfortable stage of conflict and differences. And my message is there is a finite set of skills to learn to move through that stage and to stay together and fall in love again together. And I want all Americans to know that, because loneliness is not good for the spirit, it's not good for health. In fact, Michael reminds me all the time, over the age 50, the biggest factor in longevity is the quality of your personal relationships. And so I'm here to promote that message and to support relationships being solid and deliciously in love.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And also thank you for that shout out to double parenting and not making that situation wrong, but making it right. Good for you. All right, Blake, welcome. Blake is the author of the international best-selling book, You Were Not Born to Suffer, and has been through his own personal journey around that. Tell us a little bit about your origin story.
Thank you, Lisa. Did we skip the fun tidbits?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
It's all good.
So I'll try and keep it brief. My story is a little bit different and probably has some similarities that maybe people didn't volunteer. I grew up in a very dysfunctional family around a lot of drug and alcohol addiction and a lot of trauma. And then when I was a teenager, my early teens, I started doing drugs and drinking as my way of self-medicating and self-soothing. So I got addicted to pills and cannabis and alcohol as a teenager. And that was my way of numbing out and running from my family and running from myself and surviving, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate. And so by the time I was 18, I had been arrested a few times for drug possession. And I was also a good athlete growing up, so I played football in high school. And I was co-captain of the varsity football team with two of my best friends. And I had offers to play college football. And one night I was coming home from a party in the middle of the night, around 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had taken a couple Xanax pills and been smoking pot all night and drinking all night. And I got to a freight train. And I thank God, I was so delirious, I put my car in park, and I had done this, this became a habit every weekend or a couple times every weekend, and I thought that I was invincible, and just like every other night I would get home okay. I was literally like 1 minute from the house. So I put my car in park, thankfully, and I put my head back, and I fell asleep. And I woke up to knocking on the window and, came out of my delirium, and there were police, outside my car. And I rolled down the window and I said to the officer, "Excuse me, officer, was I driving too slow?" And the officer said, "Son, you've been parked here for at least an hour with the car on and the lights on, and we got a call from the house over here, and get out of the car." So I was very smart when I was young, so I had all these substances in my car. So I got arrested for a lot of possession and got a really bad DUI. Thankfully, I was 17 at the time, so when I became an adult, it didn't come with me on my record. But my coach found out, and I got kicked off the varsity football team halfway through senior year and lost all my offers to play college football. And at that time in my life, which was 23, 22 years ago, that was my ego. That was my identity. It was my life. It was my lifestyle. It was my refuge. It was my community. And I blew it up and sabotaged it and shattered it just, like that. And so I went from being very arrogant as a young man with a big ego to being very insecure, very ashamed of myself, and tortured psychologically and emotionally. So at 18, I found myself suicidally depressed, and I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't have anybody in my life that I trusted that seemed functional and healthy in themselves that I could go to. And obviously I could never, at that point, articulated what I was going through in the same way I'm able to, share this with you today. And so then also at the age of 18, there's that pressure of, what am I gonna do with my life? I didn't know what to go to college to study. I didn't know how I wanted to make a living. And so I felt that immense pressure of, what am I doing on the planet and what am I supposed to do with my life? And so I'm waking up every day at 18 just tortured by my mind and my emotions and feeling alone and very confused and having no direction. And so I started waking up asking myself, I felt like life wasn't meant to be so hard, and I wasn't meant to be suffering so much. There was this voice inside of me that started to say that to me. And so I started to search, how do I free myself from this suffering? And then I also had this deep knowing that there had to be some kind of purpose to my life. So I started asking, what am I doing here? And so I moved forward every day from the age of 18 asking, how do I heal myself or free myself from this suffering? And what's the purpose of my life? And I ended up going to 5 different universities trying to answer those questions. So studying things like psychology, nutrition, all the sciences. Then I went on to study traditional Chinese medicine, so acupuncture and oriental medicine, Western herbal medicine. I started reading all the philosophers, like our friend over here mentioned, all the greatest thinkers of, the past, millennia, all the religious texts and spiritual texts, just like everybody I'm sure in this room, like a true seeker seeking the truth to understand myself and what I'm doing here. And after about 6 years of doing that and living like a monk, I came to some realizations, and those realizations were that in my healing journey, my spiritual journey, my search for purpose, my educational journey, everything I had done, I was doing 2 things, which was really doing one thing. And I realized I was just looking for love, because instinctually I knew that love was going to be the thing that healed me. I was looking for the love I never got as a child growing up, because my parents were suffering and never learned how to love themselves. I was looking for the love I never learned to give myself, because I never learned how to love myself. And I was looking for me. I was looking for the love that I would later realize that I am. But like you, I had learned to look outside of myself for love and to hurt myself for love. And so my whole educational, spiritual, and healing journey was me really just learning how to love myself so I could get back to the source of love inside of me that was covered up by all the pain from the damage I had done to myself because I never learned better.
And that's the title of You Were Not Born to Suffer.
And that's the title of my book. Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow, what a journey. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. A lot of stuff. So as you can see, everybody has a wonderful background that they come from, and it's the reason why we do what we do. It's these stories, these journeys, these wounds that we heal and we want to share with the world. And that's the whole reason of telling your story, and you know them so much better now than reading just a bio or a book cover or something like that. You really learn why they do what they do. And so there's two questions that I want to go through today, just two, and they're going to open up a whole forum of other questions. But one is, I want to talk about the pain points. Why is this country so sick? What is the number one cause of disease in your perspectives? I want to know from your world, what's the number one cause of disease based on your perspective? And then I want to paint the picture of what is optimal health. Like, I want to really go there. What does that mean to have a fluid body, to have access to agility, to have your brain and mind thinking clearly, to, you know, youth as you get older, all of that? What is it? What is possible, and the most cutting edge way of defying the whole health process? All right, so let's see here. Since I just finished with you, Blake, I'm going to start once again with Dr. Jeffrey. So what do you feel is the number one cause of disease?
You know, the medical model is based on Newtonian physics. 1 and 1 is 2. You know, oh, you feel bad, take a pill. And it's not based on energy medicine. It's not based that we are energy beings. It's not based on electricity and finding out where the energy blocks are. And you know, insurance companies and politics, it's all about putting more money in big pharma, and that's why we're so sick.
We see that all of the time with the commercials in the pharmaceutical commercials that are only airing in this country and one other.
Right.
Yes.
They passed a law, they changed to allow that to happen.
Yes.
That's why we're so sick.
Okay. Dr. Sandra Rose, what do you think is the number one cause of disease?
Ultimately, number one cause is forgetfulness of who we really are.
Yes.
We are powerful, unlimited, infinite beings of God, sons and daughters of God. And there's been an intentional programming of forgetfulness. You know, so there's been agendas, and I've been very acutely aware of all those agendas, radiation being one of them. Because I know radiation literally from the inside out, that ionizes the brain and things like that. So, but we've been living in a toxic soup of all the poisons in the air, the food, the water, and all the electropollution, the electrosmog, etc. So it's been taking all our energy just to cope with a hostile environment versus having that, you know, like I said, goes back to the power that made the body, heals the body.
Exactly.
How do we plug back into that cosmic, infinite light socket, universal, unlimited power, light, wisdom? What if we really are connected to the infinite intelligence, and every cell and particle and tissue of your being can be aligned by that light, with that light, as that light, and the highest powers of love here on earth as it is in heaven through us now.
Yes. All right. Okay, so for We Forgot Who We Are, Dr. Hyla Cass, what do you see in your practice as the number one cause of disease?
Lack of balance, and that's so many different ways of looking at that balance in our life, causing stress, balance in our diet, balance of nutrients, balance in relationships. And there's an agenda, as you were saying, there's an agenda by big pharma, big ag, the big corporations to keep us ill. I mean, it's clear. And we know, like, the medical journal articles are fake. And there was a big expose by somebody who'd been an editor, the editor-in-chief of one of the main journals, who exposed this about 10 years ago. And it's still going on. So
Bought and paid for articles.
What's that?
Bought and paid for articles.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's bought and paid for, and if you really read what is in the article, it doesn't. The conclusions don't even bear out what it says. So, blah blah. So, in what we need to do, I mean, we need to have a solution. I really begin with detoxing, and I know that wasn't the question, but you need to do some physical detoxing. But in the process of doing that, If you de-stress, the detoxing will work much better. So you have to do everything. You know, there's no easy way. There is not take a Prozac once a day and you're going to be okay. That's not what happens. You take Prozac, you can't sleep, you have anxiety. I mean, meds are not the answer.
Right.
So we need to go to root cause and look at the deepest root cause. So, sometimes I'll give amino acids immediately if someone has anxiety. Give them some theanine, some 5-HTP, whatever. But that's not even the solution. That's providing what they need to make neurotransmitters. But underneath that why are they deficient in neurotransmitters? And we have to keep going deeper and deeper, and then who we are, how we're living, our belief system is also going to impact how all this works on that individual. So it's
Yes.
complexity.
Good answer,
It's
yes.
not a simple solution.
No, we got to do the work. Joanne, what do you feel is, in your experience as a nurse, the number one cause of disease?
Well, I mean, I think it's self-awareness. Number one, we are not taught that our thoughts and our feelings affect our physical bodies. I think that if we were taught that from a very young age, we would be more, we would do the work to be more conscious of what we are thinking and what we are feeling in every moment. And and the fact that we are, there is a deeper level than the physical body. We have an energy body, which the whole panel has been speaking about, and we have energy centers that are powered by our emotions, which are the chakras. So not being aware of how we feel and what we think definitely, can cause blocks, and that could lead to disease as well. And then speaking about the systemic problem that we have in this country as well also plays a big role in, educating and providing adequate health care that's equitable for everyone.
Yes, very true. Lisa, what do you feel is the number one cause of
Those
disease?
are all good answers, right? And they all contribute. In my work, I find generational patterns that get repeated. And then we have life experiences. And so visually, I see it as masses of energy in the body that over time creates pain. And so I do an emotional detox, clear out these patterns and release these, they're literally vibrational frequencies. I know we don't think that way, but they are. And as we get older, they create disease. And so doing these detoxes, doing emotional releases, letting go of what isn't ours to begin with, that we inherited within our epigenetic informational tags. Get rid of the informational tags. We can release them. We can transform at any time in our life. And going back to, we are created to heal. We are created to thrive. And really believing that and implementing that in your life will change how the body responds physically.
Beautiful. Yep. A lot of good solutions. All right. The Grossmans. I'm going to have you start first.
So
Michael.
my wife wants to go first. No, she doesn't want to go first. So,
Number one cause of disease.
we've written our book, Ageless Love. It's our most recent book. It talks about 3 layers of things you have to deal with in your life to stay healthy and create ageless love over a lifetime. Ageless love means vibrancy and also means emotional intimacy. And you can't ignore any one of those things, the mind, the body, and the spirit. You've got to do it all. And I look at it's like a chain link. Whatever you're weakest in, that's where the chain's going to break, and that's what you want to work on. So if you're a great exerciser, but your emotional life is a mess, you better work on your emotional life. If you eat super healthy, but you have no relationship with God, you better work on that. If you haven't forgiven people in your life, but you're doing everything else right, that's going to get you. So you've got to work on whatever you're weakest in. And that's what I do in my office. I work on the mechanical parts with people primarily to keep them working and balance out your hormones and balance things out so that you feel youthful and vibrant. But then you got to work on the spiritual part. I teach meditation regularly over the internet. It's so critical for people to meditate every day. You got to experience the presence of peace and joy. in the physical world that we live in, people get stressed out and it changes your hormones, it changes your physiology, and that makes you sick. And you can reverse that, not through pills, through this process of meditation. And that's like sleeping. If you don't sleep, doesn't matter how good you eat, your life is going to be a mess. You've got to meditate. Everybody in this room has to meditate regularly every day, or your life will be a mess. And then we have some of the emotional things. Barbara?
Repeat the question.
Number one cause of disease. So basically, what Michael was saying, it's your weakest link.
Yes, yes. Well, so listen to all of us. Everybody has their unique journey of putting the meaning of life together, because we're no longer a traditional society, and it's an individual's responsibility to figure out how life works and what your pathway through life is. It's a huge challenge, and so I think everyone here you must all be the kind of people who take that challenge to heart and live your life intentionally and look to sort things out and figure out your pathway through. But it absolutely needs to be, you need to be spiritually connected, you need to be emotionally connected to your partner and to your children and grandchildren and parents and community. And the community part and connection with people is so important for our immediate well-being. But we all have to do all of it. And it's sweet to be in a community of people who take that seriously. So thank you.
Yes. Yes. And Blake, what do you think is the number one cause of disease?
Thank you, and thank you, everybody. Everybody's answers have been enlightening and beautiful. In my experience and my worldview has become that most forms of illness and disease are the result of us never learning how to love ourselves as children. So the toxic and unhealthy self-relationship that we have, which manifests in your unhealthy thinking, right, your toxic negative self-talk, never learning how to express your emotions in a healthy, kind way, never learning how to take care of your body in a healthy, gentle, loving way. And then I think this is the parasite that is passed down from generation to generation. And so our parents don't know, our teachers don't know, and so we keep passing this down. So not learning how to love ourselves.
Mm-hmm. So look at this, we have these wonderful answers, and I want you to just recognize that none of this is our fault. None of this is your fault. None of this is the fault of us being wrong. This is, we've covered, pharmaceuticals, agenda, forgotten who we are, a lack of life balance, not detoxing enough, self-awareness, generational patterns, whatever the weakest link is, our spiritual and emotional connection, and not learning how to love ourselves. So here's the thing. All of these come from these unconscious patterns that are out there. We have the responsibility where we are awake. Now that we're aware of all of this and all of that's come to the surface, we have the internal responsibility to say, I'm aware of this and I'm going to make a different choice. Because none of this is my fault. I didn't walk into this family, I didn't walk into this agenda, I didn't walk into this set of circumstances, but what I do know is that I have the power to change it. And that's what being awake is, that's what being aware is. And that's why you're here, because you're on this great quest to figure out how you're going to change this, how you're going to make this an optimal life. I went through, that was 5 months ago, I went through a really very tragic accident. It was a bad bike accident. I broke both of my collarbones and had a very severe concussion. And I got to a place, and this was just in August of last year, and I knew after being devastated by this that I had a choice to make my body better than it was before. And I am standing here 5.5 months later, having gone on, I left this morning and I went on a beautiful mountain bike ride because I knew that it was so gorgeous outside that I just wanted to spend some time with myself. And I'm now here to serve. And I know I'm in a healing process, but I know that my brain and my body and my shoulders will be better than I was before. And I'm committed to that. And so, thank you. It's a deep process. It's a very challenging, deep process, but I'm willing to go through it. And so I would love to hear from each one of you, and I'm taking notes here. What's the number one thing that you suggest to get to optimal health? Paint the picture, give us your best, most cutting edge solution. I'm taking notes. You told me.
Well, one, I have a gift for you. A session at my office for a concussion reconnection.
Oh, thank you.
I had a concussion.
I've been rebuilding my brain again. Thank
The
you.
number one thing that we can do is just removing the trauma. It's from childhood, falling from a bicycle. These traumas, they just, I think I said earlier, we get, that's an example of life throwing a curveball at you. Some of them are subtle, but they're all additive. They're all additive. In my slide presentation, I had a picture of Christopher Reeves, who, after a fall from a horse, he broke his neck. He's been in a wheelchair ever since, till he passed. So that's one huge trauma. So imagine a lot of smaller traumas, not being nurtured as you should have been as a child, carrying backpacks for a little child that's too large for them, having children, watch their cell phones for hours and hours on end. These are all cumulative trauma. And then, adding in the radiation exposure, 5G, and they're all additive. And there's a way to unwind it. So I use kinesiology, and then we have, live blood cell analysis, and a lot of different ways to do that. But it's really about, you want to get younger, you got to take the trauma out of the way, so the life force energy that we know exists can flow through us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and in my experience, it is possible to, multiple concussions causes the brain to stay asleep unless you actually actively wake it up. Those little bundles in the neck and the back will stay asleep unless you actively go in to rebuild them. And a lot of people are walking around with multiple concussions from kids and childhood and so forth, not knowing that you're operating with a certain percentage of your brain offline. And that's how I'm very committed to building a better brain, because of things like that I am committed to concussion protocols, and I'm doing it. All right. Please tell us, Dr. Sandra, what is your secret? What is the number one thing that you do, the most cutting edge thing that you do to get us to optimal health?
Yeah. After more than 45 years of working with healing at every level, through every dimension, through every protocol, through, the EE system, the energy enhancement system is, you take it all and let's call forward all the wisdom of all of our experiences genetically, ancestrally, all the way back to source. Let's call forward all the wisdom. Now how do we want to be? Because we need to give the body the energy to heal itself. That's when the body has the right energy, it's going to heal anything and everything. It's detox, detox, detox. When the body has the charge, then it can discharge, and we've literally shown this with like the BioWell testing and things. The discharge of head traumas, TBIs, all the traumatic brain injuries. But behind the physical toxicity is the emotional toxicity. But the secrets of instant healing is as soon as you're present with anything and everything with love, it all heals. So with our technology, you're literally breathing light, photons, quantums of light through every cell and every part. And you can let go of anything and everything that's no longer serves your greatest life force, energy, because it's all about coherence in the system and being, in that alignment with your highest purpose and your, the highest potential of every cell and particle and tissue of your being here. Because the body is a condensation of consciousness. But you need the energy to change your mind, to change your, your thoughts, to change your diet, to change your life, to change the world. So this is about, let's give people the energy to make those changes, but also it's about education and giving people the information to make healthier, more intelligent, more informed choices, but healthier choices. That's what empowerment is. And we choose, if we could create everything we've ever chosen on this planet, now what do we want to create? If we could create everything we've ever created, if we could experience everything we've ever experienced, now how do you want to experience? What do you want to create? Let's make some healthier choices, more intelligent, more fun choices. This is meant to be the pleasure planet, and we want a new heaven, new earth. Girls just want to have fun.
Wait, quick question. So the scalar, I'm not done with you. The scalar healing light chamber is breathing in light?
Yeah, you're literally breathing photons. We're colliding photons, kind of like Cerner Fermi Labs, on top of the scalar. The scalar is one aspect that's very, very important. That's your infinity wave. That's nonlinear, non-Hertzian, fifth dimensional standing column wave. And that's what allows us to create that nullification of all detrimental and destructive field effects. So you got the scalar aspect, and then you have the photons and photonic fusion, and it's literally raising the millivoltage in the cells. But when the body has the charge, then it wants to discharge everything that doesn't belong, because we're activating the light at the core of the DNA. But you're literally breathing photons, quantums of light in there. It's pure science. But when you have that light, have that energy, have that charge, you can discharge everything that does not belong, but also gives the body the energy to function more and more perfectly, more and more optimally, and to help align you with your highest potentials of all the reasons why we're here on this planet at this amazing time, this freakingly, amazingly awesome time.
And because we're all light, basically, right? So
Yeah, we are beings of light. Activating the light at the core of the DNA itself. The core of the DNA is the light, the stuff from the stars. Our star seed is what it's been called too. And then the DNA carries all the memories, all the records, all the information. It's like an informational superhighway. And ask and you shall receive. Talking about meditation. Part of the research is you can go to deeper meditational state than a Tibetan monk in 7 minutes in the system. So
do you have one of the
accelerated evolution on this planet? Accelerated evolution. Shift as hit the fan.
Fantastic,
When
fantastic.
I had my friend Rick Walton, who was my Kabbalistic book editor, has an office in West LA with the panels, with the E-system, and it's amazing.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Cutting edge science. I love it. Okay, Dr. Hylakas, what is the number one way? I know you said it's a big system approach, but to getting to optimal health?
It begins with attitude, having a positive attitude, believing that you are perfect and need to get out of your own way. You have to remove the blocks to being in perfect flow, to let the light in, to let the light out, and light is love, and that's what we're really made out of. So that's sort of the underpinning. Then you need to be like not believing the standard of care in medicine, because what you get is not a placebo effect, you get a nocebo effect. It's like a hex. You're told, oh, you're going to die in 3 months from this cancer, as opposed to saying, there are ways of healing your terrain, your inner terrain, that will make it not possible for cancer to continue growing. So that's a totally different approach. And about diagnosis, for example, changing a little bit, I've had people come to me diagnosed bipolar. As a psychiatrist, that's what I'm supposed to treat. I've had some bipolar patients that I've been able to get off medication by rebalancing them. But what's really going on is a hormonal imbalance. So it's not bipolar, whatever that is, because there could be many reasons underneath it, exactly what the imbalance is. Somebody has Hashimoto's thyroiditis, they can have mood swings. They're going to be up, they're going to be down. And rather than being put on this whole cocktail of bipolar medication, we do a hormone panel looking for thyroid antibodies in this case. And when that's treated, guess what? They stop being bipolar. Their moods smooth out because their thyroid hormone becomes in balance. So that's what I mean about not buying into mainstream medicine. And it's useful at times. I certainly use the diagnostic lab tests that mainstream medicine uses. I may use a lot of the same solutions, but you have to be discerning about it.
Great, into mainstream medicine. Everybody taking notes? I'm taking notes. Okay. Joanne, what do you think is the number one way to get to optimal health?
For me, I would suggest meditation. I mean, with meditation, you clear your field. You're able to access a deeper part of you that's, you know, that's below the level of your personality, below the level of your intellect, and it's that higher self that will actually guide you through that illness or whatever challenge you're going through in your life, for you to make wiser decisions about your health. And with meditation, you know, you're able to access guidance from the divine, which is also essential to health. And at times you need help outside yourself to get you through really difficult times. You know, especially when I've worked with patients on dialysis, you know, patients with chronic GI conditions. You know, having an illness could be really tough, and you do need help from the outside, from the divine. And I think meditation takes care of all that and so much more. So
Great. Yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you for that. Lisa, tell me, what is your number one cutting edge way to get to optimal health?
I don't think there's one way. I think it's a process, and it's you feeling worthy that you can heal, and doing one thing and just taking action in that, because everything that's been mentioned is important. I'm a DNA girl. You know, my desire is to clean it out of the DNA and the tissues and the fibers, and to activate those telomeres, balance the right and left hemisphere of the brain. It's all helpful. Everything is helpful, but you have to say yes to you and create a support system that's healing. It's not one person, it's not one thing, it's a support system. And you're gonna heal, and then you're gonna hit something else, and that pain will come back or whatever. And sometimes it doesn't, but if it does, it doesn't mean you didn't do the right thing. It means there's something else and there's something more. And then that belief in a higher power that you can heal, I think is really vital as well. Okay.
Absolutely. Feeling we're worthy.
Yes, absolutely, we're worthy, because if we don't feel like we're worthy, we're not going to take, we won't be proactive.
Right.
We won't take that stance. We won't do that little bit for ourselves. We won't meditate because we don't have time, or our mind won't be silent, right? We won't pay for that healthcare practitioner. We won't take time for ourselves and get out in nature and ride a bike or get back on the bike when we get hurt. We shut down. And when we shut down, our body shuts down. And when it shuts down, our energy field shuts down. And then life force shuts down.
Yeah. Right. Okay, the Grossmans, Dr. Michael, tell me, what do you think is the number one way to optimal health?
Well, I would say for most people in this room who are over the age of 50, the most important thing is to make sure that you're looking at your hormone levels and consider replacing them with bioidentical, natural hormones, mostly topical. The only one you can take orally that's safe would be progesterone. That is going to change your life. You will feel like you're 10 to 20 years younger within a month, and that changes your whole life. You now have energy to exercise. You now have energy to be creative. You have energy to be sensual and intimate with your romantic partner. Otherwise, the desire is not there. You now are sleeping the way you should be sleeping to revitalize yourself. So that is like foundational. So that's the first thing you want to look at. The second thing you want to look at, you talked about concussions. I would say that stem cells and exosomes are the most dramatic way to take care of injuries to your body. Injuries that don't heal, whether it's your brain or your kidneys or your joints, you want to heal them because that's going to allow you to enjoy the physical body and use it for spiritual purposes. So those are my fundamentals.
All right, good point. Okay, and Barbara, do you have anything you want to contribute to that?
All of these perspectives are awesome. I'm inspired to help partnerships, and that's where my training and my focus has been. And so, as a consequence of what Michael and I went through when we were in our 30s and 40s, which we think is predictable for most couples, where you come up against your history, the way your parents raised you. It's a way of resolving everything in your history without bothering your parents, because you face it with your partner, and you face all the ways in which you don't know how to communicate properly and share yourself, and forgive and love. And so Michael and I, over the last, out of our own experience, we created a course in which we teach 4 essential skills for completely rejuvenating your relationship and making it loving, making it about partnership, healing your past, and serving each other and raising your children with love and with rationality. And that's the way God gave me to contribute, and that's what I do.
I love that. Optimal healthy relationships. And then Blake, what do you think? What do you think is the #1 way to optimal health?
Thank you, Lisa. Well, I resonate with a lot of what everybody said. So I think something I've been working on for over 20 years was identifying what are the optimal human habits that I can integrate from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. And so that's kind of where my body of work has grown, is identifying what these optimal, healthy, loving habits are that represent treating myself with love and kindness from the moment I wake up until the moment I go to bed every day, which starts with at least 10 minutes of meditation every morning. And I think a couple specifics that I'd like to share that I feel are really helpful is, one is taking the mindset of creator, like some people have said here, not buying into the medical system or really anything outside of yourself. I mean, a lot of us get stuck in this victim consciousness where we blame and complain. And like Lisa said, none of this is our fault, but it does become our responsibility. And at the end of the day, if we just sit here and wait for someone to come save us or rescue us or heal us, we can wait forever. So there's a point where you need to have a loving friend like me say to you that you got to stop playing the victim card and take 100% responsibility for your health, because you can't wait on me or anybody here or the doctor, or you just can't wait. So you need to figure out how to treat yourself with love every day. And like the lady at the end here said, we need to learn to treat ourselves as worthy. And so one of the practical habits I'd love to challenge you with leaving here is, I've learned that most of us have a habit of self-betrayal and self-rejection. So if you think about your relationships right now, how often do you repress, like someone said, oppression? How often do you repress what you truly feel and need and want, either because you don't know what you feel or need or want, or you just don't know how to express it in a healthy way? But if you keep living a lie, you're going to stay sick. So you can do all the right things. You can eat right, you can exercise, you can meditate. But if you can't tell the people in your life what you feel and what you need and what you want in an honest and kind way on a daily basis, you're always going to feel alone. And no matter what you do, no matter what treatment you do, no matter what cool gadget you use, you're going to end up sick. You're going to stay stuck. Okay, so you got to figure out how to stop living a lie and be true to yourself.
All right,
Okay.
well, we have, yes, a lot of solutions. And I want to hear from you now, your questions that you might have for the panel. I mean, this was really, and Gina's back. Where'd she go with the microphone? Gina, if you could go to the hands that are raised. Where'd you go? There's a light right behind you. Okay. Right here, there's some hands raised in the center of the aisle. There, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And I actually don't have a question. I would like to share something that has made it very possible for me to know that we are light and that light is love. Mm-hmm. So many, many years ago, a great master gave me a blessing who allowed me to see the unseen, transparent, apparently transparent world, where light is just vibrating and moving at a fantastic, fantastic speed in geometric forms that repel and push each other, come together. And it's so fast, and there's so many brilliant colors that we attempt to create, but it's amazingly much more than that. And it's all-encompassing, but you can still distinguish form even though everything is moving. It drove me crazy because it's like, how can I distinguish form when everything is moving at such a fantastic speed? And at the same time, tears of pure joy or pure love were just streaming down my face. So what I've gathered from all of the years after I've been able to see that is that yes, we are light. The highest frequency of that light, if I can call it frequency, is pure love. And if we stay in touch with that, then we will be okay.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. Yes, Tina, there's questions everywhere. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
I was hoping everybody could address the subject of cancer. It's such a big subject. I'm sure it has touched the lives of probably everybody in this room in some form or another. I have been personally grappling with a cancer issue for about 12 years. I chose in the very beginning not to support the cancer industrial complex. I'm sure we all know exactly what that means. I have been doing a myriad of alternative, I kind of hate that word. I think the
modalities.
Cancer industrial complex should be alternative and natural means should
True.
be primary. But that being said, I'm very familiar with ozone therapy, supplement therapy, energy medicine therapy, and so on. But it's a rapidly moving field of study. There's a lot of new stuff coming out all the time, and I would dearly love to hear what our panelists think are some of the latest and greatest things to look at in that subject.
Does anyone want to take that? Yes, I'll start with Sandra.
Oh.
And then I'll go to
Yeah. Yeah, you know, considering I've been helping people reverse cancers more than 45 years, it's important to remember every cell wants to function perfectly and really orgasmically, organically, every cell. So you want to give them all permission. A piece of that is radical self-love. Radical self-love. Now, what does that mean? But it is about changing the bioterrain. You know, you mentioned terrain. Terrain is everything. So changing the conditions, cancer cannot exist in an alkaline environment, so the change of diet, but pH becomes vitally important, the importance of hydrogen, so the hydration with the hydrogen, oxygen, cancer can't, you know, Warburg's work, cancer can't exist in a highly oxygenated system, and cancer cannot exist in a high energy system. So every single day, I do want to share with you, we have been receiving reports literally from around the world. We have over 500 centers now around the world. And every single day I get reports of stage 4 cancers reversing.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Goodness. Well,
They're just disappearing. They can't find them anymore. But also it's a matter of meditation. You got to change. If you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to get more of the same results. For me, cancer is what I always would tell people with cancer. It's shift or get off the planet.
yeah, that's good.
Keep doing what you've
That's
been doing,
good.
you get the same results. You got to change. It means changing your diet, loving yourself enough to not put it in anything that feeds the cancer. And the cancer becomes like a 2-year-old, 3-year-old child throwing temper tantrums for its favorite foods. And you've got to be the adult in the room and make healthier, more intelligent, more informed choices, no sugar and things like that. And then the other secret of instant healing is as soon as you get the message from higher self, what something's about, no more need for the symptom. As long as there's still more to learn from it, you get to keep going through the layers of the process of, and healing's like peeling an onion, in case you hadn't noticed from everybody talking here.
Yes.
And it's detox, detox, detox at every level. And some of it's the genetic, all the things, the programmings that have been carried and perpetuated in so many different ways. And it's the truth that sets us free. So, you know, it's a matter of getting to that core of the truth of our being here.
Beautiful.
Really getting there.
I'm glad you got that on tape there. I mean, on video.
I want to add also what kind of cancer is it and where is it? Prostate. So we want to look at so prostate deals with procreation. So is there something that you were shut down, or somebody in your family line, they didn't feel worthy of being here on this earth plane? What is the message? Because there's a reason why it's there and nowhere else, or why it's even existing. There is a message to learn from that. And there's a lot of organ meridian connections, and there's an organ meridian emotional connection. So part of neuroemotional technique talks about that. My emotional trauma release technique talks about that. So whenever you do all the different things that Dr. Michael said, also get a little more specific, and it's not just cancer in general as a whole, but what is your specific cancer, and what is the message of that organ is trying to tell you? Why does it need that love and healing at that spot? I myself had a little bit of a touch of skin cancer, but I went to my mentor. He said, "Oh, that's like a gallbladder meridian," and we worked on it, and it disappeared on its own. Just an energy block right there, and it went away on its own.
All right. Great. Oh, yes, Doctor.
Question. So just a thought for everyone else in the room who doesn't have cancer. Prevention, there are some simple things everyone should do. Selenium, 200 micrograms a day, prevents 50% of cancers. I mean, you reduce your incidence of cancer by 50%. Everyone should do that. There's no reason not to. Vitamin D. Everyone in this room should get vitamin D levels checked once a year. If you haven't gotten a check lately and you're not on vitamin D, you are going to be deficient, because everyone in California protects their skin from, quote, sun damage, and therefore you become vitamin D deficient, and you get a lot more diseases of all kinds, diabetes and cancer and heart disease, and the list goes on, immune system. Everyone should be on vitamin D. And you want to take it with vitamin K2 so that you don't get any calcified arteries. You put the calcium in the bones with the K2. So vitamin D, 5,000 IUs on average with K2, somewhere between 180 and 200 micrograms a day. And got to get your levels checked, because it sometimes goes too high, but most often it's too low. But if it's in the right range, then that's what you want to do. The other thing you want to consider is broccoli extract. There are many excellent broccoli extracts that you can buy. You can't eat 5 servings of broccoli every day. It's hard. But you can take it in a little pill, and it's great for cancer prevention, particularly prostate, but really all cancer. So these are some practical things for everyone else in the audience to take. Really important. How much selenium? 200 micrograms, MCG, micrograms.
Great. And Blake, yes.
Yeah, can I say, I got just three themes to highlight. One is, I think we've all touched on, is the outer environment and the inner environment. I think a lot of things I see with cancer today is because the environment is so toxic. So going through all your body care products and your home cleaning products for everybody, like you really got to clean out your detergent, like your underarm deodorant, your toothpaste, your shampoos, your lotions, your makeup, for women in the room, perfumes, like don't ever put perfume on your neck.
And we can mention that in Europe, 90% of the things you buy here in America for those kind of things are outlawed.
Yeah.
But in America, we make too much money, so why would we want to outlaw it?
Right, and then your home care products, so your Tides, your Windex, surface cleaners, you could do everything right, but they're neurotoxins. They'll make you anxious, they'll make you sick. So I would say outer environment.
Very, very important. Quit paying to poison yourselves.
Yeah, exactly. So it is really, because you can do all the right things, but you don't realize like you're eating the Windex that you touch on your window or the surface cleaner, and then that makes you anxious and or you can't sleep and you don't understand why, and it's these chemicals. Okay, so that's just big picture for everybody. Two is in mind-body medicine or metaphysical medicine, a lot of cancer is anger and resentment. And so, a lot of anger and resentment comes from self-betrayal, right? So rejecting your emotions, rejecting your needs, rejecting your feelings. So if I hurt you, you're going to get angry, right? But if you hurt yourself, who are you angry at, right? So cancer is the growing of the anger inside you. When it comes to prostate in men, it's typically, the idea is that someone's got you by the balls. And that, seriously, so a lot of times for men, it's resentment towards their mother or towards women in your life. So for you in particular, I would analyze who are you angry at or resentful towards or feel controlled by, typically mom or women that you're involved with, or it can be, it could be anybody. So that's where I would go for you. And then 3, I've been practicing and teaching Qigong for over 20 years. And I think it's an ancient practice that's coming back, and it's going to be more valued as we move forward, because I think our body is like a Ferrari that nobody ever taught you how to drive, okay? And Qigong is, for me, was this lesson on how to drive my Ferrari, right? Or whatever your Ferrari is. And so Qigong, in my experience, I would say it's the most effective form of self-healing on the planet, because you can learn to unlock all the stuck energy, stuck blood, stuck emotion, and stuck light in your body yourself, and you don't need anybody else to do it. Okay.
Fantastic. Great solutions. Thank you for the question, Tina. We have another. Hi. Yep, we'll get
Okay,
it up.
thank
There
you.
you go.
In light of what humanity has been put through in the last 3 or 4 years, I sincerely would like to hear at least some of your opinions about the COVID shots.
We don't want to
Anybody?
lose our medical license, so you can't tell anybody what we say in this room.
We're not recording it.
It's become real clear with the research that's going on is that the COVID shot had some little value at the beginning of COVID to prevent COVID, and people were dying when they went into the hospital, partly from COVID, but partly from they didn't know how to treat them and they were killing them. But once we went out of that phase in the beginning, the COVID shots have lost their value because they only last for 2 or 3 months at most to actually reduce the incidence of COVID. But now the research is showing that, it could be that people are getting more COVID after the shots because it affects the immune system. And now they're finding out that the DNA that's in the COVID vaccine is seeping out into your body and causing all kinds of complexities. So it doesn't make a lot of sense at this time for people beginning COVID vaccines, in my opinion. There was some value in the beginning, but there doesn't seem to be value now. And many other countries are agreeing with that, but not all countries. And it's complicated. And the research, as we had talked about, the research on COVID vaccines was really problematic because it wasn't done by independent agencies. And then you get all these conflicting stories about it, but it's complicated. And when you take away a doctor's license for telling what I say now, that's another problem because I'm not allowed to have my opinion. So the governor can come in and hear what I said and say, well, he's giving out false information, let's take away his license. So don't use my name, please.
So, wait, Bob, let me ask you, what do you mean by the DNA from the vaccine is leaking?
The vaccine is supposed to have RNA, but it has the DNA also. And the DNA is not supposed to be in the vaccines, but it is, but they never reported it. And when you put the DNA into people, it causes all kinds of complexities that aren't there if it's just RNA. Like cancer, like brain dysfunction, like heart disease, like all kinds of weird things. We don't even know the weird things they're doing. The research is slowly coming out, but we don't even know, and they don't care about the research, so that it's hypothetical. We don't know yet because who wants to pay for the research? Not in the United States.
Right.
They're not
Well,
paying.
3 independent countries, France is one of them, did the DNA analysis, and they found out that the DNA sequence is similar, of these vaccines are similar to snake venom. That there's a platform. In fact, I have in my office snake homeopathic. So whenever someone comes in, I have a sign. I'm the only booth that has a sign on the booth who has symptoms of long COVID. I have a whole protocol which includes to check people on snake venom. And then whoever listened to Dr. Artis yesterday, phenomenal. Nicotine patches are huge way to counter this as far as trying to clear up a long COVID. If you haven't, go buy the DVD from Dr. Artis' talk yesterday. Just phenomenal about taking care of yourself in this world of post-COVID.
I'd recommend highly the interview with Dr. Artis that called The Antidote. It's 2.5 hours, I think, but it is an interview done by Jason Shirka, and it's all highly documented, highly documented. So The Antidote, please make sure you see that. But anybody who wants more information on it, the panel tomorrow, the Health Freedom Panel with Del Bigtree and Dr. Artis and who else is, oh, Dr. Robert Young is speaking today. He has done all the analysis on all of the formulas. We can talk about that. Dr. Robert Young and I and others, and Del, have been part of the International Tribunal for Natural Justice for crimes against humanity. How many of you saw some of the hearings that we did? There were 9 emergency hearings when COVID started, with all the evidence and testimonies. You can find that online at commission.itnj, International Tribunal for Natural Justice.com, commission.itnj.com. But I highly recommend that you see Dr. Robert Young's presentation later today, or the Health Freedom Panel tomorrow. You'll get in-depth information of what to do and what's gone on, really, the excess deaths, sudden death syndrome, all that stuff that's gone on. But I do want to say, too, that our technology, we're seeing phenomenal reversals of vaccine damage repeatedly.
That's great. There's solutions. Yes. Wow. Okay. Yes, one more question here, I think. What are we doing?
I've heard everyone speak about emotional and spiritual health affecting our physical well-being, but I would like to hear some thoughts regarding autoimmunity and chronic disease and leaky gut specifically, how that affects all of those things, and what effect or what your opinions are about keystone strains of probiotics that can help mental health issues and other autoimmune type issues.
Probiotics for mental health. That's fantastic. Anyone? Hyla? Yes.
I can speak to probiotics for mental health. We carry about 5 pounds of friendly bacteria in our gut called the microbiome. That's the gut microbiome. We also have microbiome on our skin and our nose. We have microbiomes everywhere, and they're all a little different in their population. And there are definite strains of these friendly bacteria that they make our vitamins, they make the B vitamins, they protect our immune system, and they're very important for us, and we're killing our microbiome with antibiotics, with pollution, glyphosate.
Glyphosate's a big culprit on leaky gut syndrome.
And there are some companies, for example, I was consulting to Claire Lab at one point, and when they were bringing out specific formulas of probiotics for depression, and there's specific strains that will help to counter anxiety. So we're learning a lot. It's an up-and-coming field of how to use the microbiome to affect the rest of the body. And when somebody has a mental or emotional problem, what is really being reflected is brain inflammation. You know, somewhere on our body, externally, something will turn red, and we'll know that we have an inflammation. We don't know that we have it in the brain. It shows up not as pain or swelling. It shows up as a mental or emotional thing, like bipolar, like dementia, anxiety, whatever that is. And one of the main ways to treat it is to start with the gut, and that's true for autoimmune illness as well.
Yep. Great. And food sensitivities and elimination diets and so forth.
Right. So I have done a lot of work in the area of people with gut disorders. It's like foundational to the physiology, and I encourage my patients when they have intestinal upset, they don't think you should just take some pill from the pharmacy, but you've got to get to the cause of it. And one of the things that is dramatic for people is when I tell them, well, look, let's start out with some simple things. What food do you crave? What's your favorite food that you have a hard time eating less of? Oh, well, I can't eat less cheese, or I can't eat less bread, or whatever it is. Okay, treat yourself like an alcoholic and stop it. And you're gonna feel bad for 4 days. You'll feel terrible. You feel like you're withdrawing from a drug. And then on the 5th day, you're gonna feel better. And okay, there might be 30 other foods that you're allergic to, but start with that one, and you'll see how much better you feel. And then we can put them on a more intensive diet where you eliminate things and so forth. And it changes people's lives. You've got to work with the right kind of probiotics, but there's a lot of other things to add in. L-glutamine helps to heal the gut. There's a lot of things to do, but it's really foundational. And the other thing that I do to relieve the inflammation that we're talking about, and also all the COVID stuff, which is very inflammatory in all kinds of ways. I've had so many patients who've had brain problems, mood problems, energy problems from COVID and
Hair
COVID
loss.
vaccines.
Big one is hair loss.
And hair loss, it could be all kinds of things. And I treat them with exosomes and stem cells. And exosomes and stem cells don't cure the inflammation, but they repair the underlying injury. And if you don't get any more vaccines or COVID, you're going to stay fine. And so it's been fantastic for that. But there's a whole process of things to be done, many other things besides that. But that is the one thing that's been dramatic to help.
Is it your own stem cells? Or?
It could be your own stem cells. It could be from the umbilical cord. It could be from other various ways you can get stem cells. So that's not the critical part.
Just not animals?
No, you don't get them from that. Well, you could, but we don't do it in the United States. You're not allowed.
Right. Great. I mean, a lot of great information's been shared here, and I want to give you a chance to be able to talk to the panelists as well on your own. Are there any other questions that, yes, there's a couple more questions.
My question is related to the previous question. So what are the best modalities to help people detox from the COVID vaccine?
Great. Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about specific to detoxification, because we know that there are a lot of substances and toxins in the vaccine itself.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the best modalities?
There's a lot of things that you can do. It's not just one thing. The FLCC has a whole thing on there. If you go on their internet program of the things you can do, and there's a lot of things that are very effective. People use ivermectin. It's one of the things that are effective. People use NAD, and that's antioxidants, very effective. People can use, if I remember the name, silver. What's the name of the?
Photo?
Right. The silver you can take is you'll have to buy it special in a liquid.
No, it's
Silver sol, the nano silver is much more effective.
Argentin?
Yeah.
I have some at my booth, by the way.
I have to remember the name of it's the my brain is not thinking.
It's COVID brain.
It's a kind of a silver. It's not the regular silver. You have to buy it, usually from a compounding pharmacy, but it is available also. There are a lot of things that help. It's not one thing that gets rid of it all the time, but there's a lot of things. And if you go on their website, they have a whole list of things to try that are very, very helpful.
Yes.
And there's also, I believe, increasing your body's energy with photons from like the E system to help your body have the energy to detox. Because if your body's weak, then you can't detox. And I recommend someone like myself who does a lot of kinesiology to check your body systems and see where the short circuits are, and then reset them. And only kinesiology can help you do that. So you want to increase your energy, because all the things I believe Dr. Grossman talked about aren't necessarily, in my opinion, detoxification. They're not going to detox you. They're going to help stop progression. There's one stopping progression of the COVID, and then there's actually detoxing, getting your body reset to where it was before the onslaught.
I'm just going to go to Blake and then.
Can I share?
Doctor, real quick.
Okay.
Well, maybe you can comment on what I'm going to say, because I don't have the details, but last year I was on the panel with David Wolf,
Yeah.
and he mentioned drinking his own urine. Maybe you could speak on that.
Urine therapy is a valid therapy for that, yes. Not just David Wolf recommends that, but also I was just spending some time with Dr. Ed Group. He's also a proponent of that, and that is one of the valid therapies. I'm a Virgo, so it's one of the only therapies I haven't done. But however, one of the things that is vital, and we have not mentioned it, and I forgot to even talk about it yesterday for detox. World's easiest detox is the salt bath, the detox salt bath. And what I'm gonna recommend, since COVID's been happening and stuff, all along, if you get in our technology, the body has the energy, it's trying to discharge. The largest organ of elimination is the skin. That's your third kidneys. Now, what we have seen, I recommend the bath for detoxification of radiation, which everybody is dealing with extreme radiation poisoning, and that's part of the COVID thing. It's actually part of the symptomology of 5G, et cetera, and the radiation. So 2 cups salt, 2 cups baking soda is the bath for pulling radiation. What we added to that is 1 cup of 20-multein borax. 20-multein borax. So you make a nice hot salt bath, you know, to open up the pores, open up the capillaries. The skin is the largest organ of elimination, and nothing does what a bath does. It's really pretty crazy what all we've seen with this since COVID especially. I mean, it's always been radical.
What about sweating and exercise?
Yeah, sweating helps, but it's not going to do what this does. The borax helps it's #1 detoxer for fluoride, for clearing, detoxification of your pineal gland, all that kind of stuff. But borax is critical as far as in neutralizing the nanobots and the synthetic biologies. What we've observed repeatedly is people that have done the 2 cups salt, 2 cups baking soda, 1 cup 20-multein borax, like a half hour, 40 minutes, whatever. That's going to open up the sweating. Far infrared sauna is good too. Do that before the bath. The salt will pull like a magnet. But what we're seeing, if you take a black light to that water in that bathtub, you'll see the luciferase, or you'd see all these glowing, bioluminescent, synthetic biologies moving in the water.
Wow. Wow, that's intense.
Lisa,
That's
can I say one more thing?
Yes.
So methylene blue is what I was thinking about.
Oh, okay, got it. Go ahead.
So the other thing I just want to highlight for everybody too is, I think it's easy to get dragged to this rabbit hole with the vaccine and the vibration of your thoughts around fear, and you can give too much power to it that you don't need to give to it, like the conversation around terrain. You can make your energy and your consciousness, the terrain of your inner environment, much stronger than the vaccine that you took. So I would also watch your thoughts around it, because it can be just another thing to blame or another dark hole to fall into. So make sure you're doing things that are constantly raising your vibration, meditate every day, work with your thoughts, and don't give your power away to it, on a daily basis with getting scared about it. Be proactive, but watch your thinking, because so much of it comes back to that.
That is so true.
And don't watch so much television.
And then we're going to get to one more question.
Chapter 11 of my book, Emotional Trauma Release Technique, talks about mass formation psychosis. So this is actually a self-help book. So you want to get the book, and then it'll tell you how to start. You think about that COVID and what you can do on your own to help detox your mind and your thoughts and neutralize that fear factor.
And Joanne, you have something to say about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just to piggyback on the fear with Blake and with Dr. Blake and about the fear. So, I'm probably going to go against the panel here about COVID, and I have my personal opinion about it, and my experience. For me, I feel it did help in the beginning, just like what Dr. Grossman stated. And also to use your discernment. I mean, it is so easy to go into the rabbit hole of what the vaccine did to you, but also use your discernment to decide what to take then, or what to do about it. I mean, use your discernment with everything. The man had a question about cancer. I believe that once a disease hits the physical plane, you know, you do everything you can to stop the cancer from spreading. And if the guidance tells you, your guidance tells you to, you know, part of it is a medical treatment, then, you know, then you listen to that. And I think that's the most important thing when it comes to health is, you know, are you listening to inner guidance, or are you listening to what others are saying? And you do what's best for you. You feel into your body and you do what's best for you. And that's, you know, that's what I would suggest with any kind of
meditation. Yeah. Gina, you've got a question back there? Yes.
Yes. In hindsight, do you think it would have been better to just let natural immunity take its course? And does anyone have any information on how Sweden fared? I imagine it was pretty beneficial. Otherwise, we would have seen, well, see, they're not doing anything and they're falling apart, but we didn't hear anything about Sweden and how they fared. So I would imagine it was beneficial.
Their statistics were much better.
Yeah. And that's not significant. What's significant is they didn't have to close down the schools. They didn't have children for 2 years lose the ability to interrelate personally, where they become mentally disabled for the rest of their childhood. That is the critical thing they didn't have. We have all that here. It's been a huge problem. My wife she can't see all the patients who want to call her because their family has broken down. Their kids are going crazy. They're not normal kids. And so that is the critical thing. Yes, they may have had better numbers, but that's not the important thing. The numbers that we have here, you don't even know what the numbers are because they died with COVID, not from COVID. How many died with COVID? We don't know. So that's a huge problem. So the number thing is all nonsense. I ignore the numbers. I look at the effect it has on our culture, on the families, on the children growing up. That is unbelievably bad, and we should never do that again.
Did you have a question here in the front row? Yes. Okay. Gina, if you can walk around to this area. And then we're going to wrap up so that you can have a chance to, one more question, and then we'll wrap up, okay? Sir.
I put on Abilify about 16 years ago, and I was on lithium before that. I don't know if I need the medication anymore. I haven't had an episode in 28, 30 years.
That might be something that a doctor might need to
I was
address.
wondering if I can address a doctor about
if there's any natural things that he could do in addition, but I think you might need to consult your medical professional. Does anybody want to address that? Hyla?
Well, people are put on medication at a certain point for whatever's going on then, and then it ends up being a life sentence. Nobody reevaluates. And in fact, in countries where the standard of care is you treat something acutely, like a psychotic break, a depression, you treat it acutely with medication, and just for that episode, and you take it off. The track record is the people, those countries have a much better track record of people coming back from those illnesses. They may never have an episode again. They are gainfully employed, their social lives are normal, whereas very often, I'm not talking about you particularly, I'm talking about the people who get trapped in the heavy duty, lots of meds, they're never the same. And their lives just aren't right. So you're right to want to get off, but that's something you need to consult with somebody to do it gradually, one at a time, and also with a lot of natural support, diet, supplements, and other natural means.
Yeah, great.
And medicines are tricky because we have some simple things like Benadryl that you take for sleeping over the counter, and now the research is coming out, it creates dementia. So you've got to be careful about medicines, even though they're not prescriptions. And the ones who are prescriptions, as you're describing, come off it very gently. Certain ones are very difficult to get off. So the antidepressants are very hard to get off of. The easiest one to get off of is Prozac because it has such a long half-life. Some of the other ones, you don't take it for a day, you go crazy and you withdraw and you have all these problems. Prozac you can take and gradually go off it a little bit at a time, and you don't withdraw, and it's much easier to get off of that. So I often put people on Prozac temporarily while they're going off the other antidepressants. And so every medicine has their own thing, and you got to talk to your doctor to find out how to get off of this and which way and so forth. So it's a little bit of a complex.
All right, we have one more question
Can I
here in
just
the
say
front.
something quick too
Oh, yes.
on medications that has helped a lot of my clients heal? You know, when you break your leg, you know, you need a cast and a crutch for a period while you heal. And so it took me a while to get to this mindset, but it's very healing, which is that I think life breaks our heart and shatters our psyche early on. And so medications like an antidepressant or a bipolar medication are often a cast or a crutch for a broken heart or a broken mind. And so I found that mindset helps people heal their relationship to the medication, that you just need it for a period of time while you gain the tools to heal your heart and heal your mind naturally. Yeah.
My dad was a police officer, and the first 13 years were really a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But I forgave him, and he passed and everything, and
Yeah.
we had a good relationship the last 20 years.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Sounds like you're asking the right questions in the right place. Yes, one more question.
Thank you for allowing me to ask a question.
Yes.
August 2020, I was hospitalized.
Can't hear.
1 month. Can
Oh.
you hear me?
Louder, please.
Hello.
Oh, there we go.
That's a little too loud. Okay. Well, thank you very much for my last question here. August 2020, I was hospitalized with the bilateral COVID pneumonia. Delta almost took me to heaven.
Wow.
And 1 month in the hospital. So the ER doctor tried to save my life, and they used remdesivir on me, and all kinds of steroids, and I think about 6 different type of antibiotics. So I became a long hauler for about 3.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was difficult. I got heart palpitation for like a year after that. So I heard about remdesivir as being quite toxic to the body, and also the protein spikes I may still have in my body. Is that true, and how do I get rid of that? If anyone can answer the question.
Dr. Michael first, and then, yes, go ahead.
Well, remdesivir has not. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that protocol was a little rough because we knew about the remdesivir. If you looked at the actual research, and it caused death in over 50%, and it was, it caused multiple organ failure as well, especially failure of the kidney. And so the protocol was not good. But what I want to share, that's the most important thing, very most important thing, there is nothing bigger than God.
Yes, yes.
And we are powerful, unlimited beings. There isn't anything we can't let go of. Love is letting go. Awareness is our power. You have to know how things have been created. Do your own research. You're each responsible for doing your own research, for your own health and your own choices. Empowerment means making more intelligent, more informed, healthier choices. So do all your research. And then, so awareness is our power, but love is our superpower. And get in that bathtub. It's a simple exercise. Get in the bathtub, breathe. Breath is life. Breathe. I remember who I am. Breathe God's love to every part of yourself. Radical self-love. Breathe love. Tell your whole body it can relax, release, let go. Let go of anything and everything that no longer serves you. Let it dissolve into the water. The salt will pool. All that. And let it go down the drain. Aloha.
You are a strong woman. You are here. And Dr. Grossman, you're good. Okay.
Okay. I had COVID, and I was hospitalized, and they gave me 2 doses of remdesivir, and then I did have to go and I saw another kinesiologist and had to reset my kidney because it did affect my kidney as well. So, okay, so we have to.
And they did use 2 doses on me as well.
Uh-huh.
And that was way before all the
And I knew that I didn't want it, but that was the hospital protocol. He said, at least give me some vitamin C. I said, and I told him I wanted not ivermectin, the one before that. I said, look, how about this? How about hydroxychloroquine? Because that's what the literature is saying. He said, no, that's not our protocol. But I was in there at care, so you got it. Yeah, talk to me after.
But now, yes, and now I'm going to give this chance for everyone to talk to our panelists here. Thank you so much for your attention and your energy, and you all make this whole thing happen. So thank you. Thank you to all of our panelists.